So you're interested in joining the hell-worshipping, self-mutilating, merry band of misfits known as the Heretic Legion? Well, you're in the right place. The Heretic Legion have some of the most diverse models in the game, as they offer a bit of everything for every style of play. They are a great starting faction as they can be simple to play when beginning a list, but can grow more complex with different model and equipment combinations, as well as several unique sub-faction choices. However you landed on this video, I'm glad you're here, because you are about to witness a showcase of my favorite faction currently in Trench Crusade. Let's get into it. The mandatory elite in your warband will be the Heretic Priest. A base +2 dice modifier in range and melee makes him a solid threat in any circumstance. He can be equipped with any weapon in the Heretic Legion armory and has the tough keyword, making his defense just as formidable as his offense. He has an ace up his sleeve with his Puppet Master ability, in which he can move any model within 12 inches of him up to 6 inches with a successful risky action. This ability can be used to gain extra movement for himself or any ally. It can be used to force an enemy to fall off a ledge, but most importantly, it can give your models a second melee attack in some situations. Let me elaborate. If you Puppet Master an enemy out of melee combat with your models, it counts as the enemy model retreating, meaning that you will be able to swing with all of your own models that were in melee combat with the enemy being Puppet Mastered. Puppet Master is an incredibly versatile ability, allowing you for some offensive and defensive plays. This model is without a doubt your most important elite in your starting warband. The Commando has a native +2 dice in melee and +1 dice in ranged. He's limited to the Silence Pistol, Tormentor Chains, and Gas Grenades as his only ranged options. Other than that, he can take any other non-ranged equipment from the Heretic Legion armory. He has the Infiltrator keyword, allowing him to deploy deep onto the board, a -1 dice to any ranged attacks coming at him with his Stealth Generator ability, and also the ability to hide, which allows him to go completely untargetable if he is touching terrain with a successful risky action. While the hide ability is active, he is unable to be targeted by ranged attacks or charges. The only way to break his stealth is if he is moved or an enemy comes within 1.5 inches of him. With this ability, you can use him as an invisible barricade in doorways or at the top and bottom of ladders, since enemies cannot move within melee range of any models while moving. They would always be forced to charge him at 1.5 inches away. Having the ability to retreat then go untargetable in your enemy's face is such a power move that many opponents are going to have a tough time dealing with. The Chorister is a brutal model to face in melee, with a +2 dice to hit enemies and is at a -2 dice on hits against him due to his fear keyword and his 8-inch aura that gives all enemies a -1 dice to all actions. He has a -2 dice to hit in ranged, so it's best to have auto-hitting weapons on him, such as flamethrowers, if you want to run ranged on him at all. Forcing this model to the front lines is critical, as you want to lock up as many enemies as possible in melee while trapping them within his aura. Beginning with our infantry, we have the basic Heretic Troopers. Simple yet versatile little fellas, as they can be equipped with anything from the Heretic armory. At the cost of 10 ducats, you can upgrade up to half of your troopers as legionaries, giving them a +1 dice to either melee or range to hit. Small yet mighty in numbers, these guys can truly do a lot of work for you, whether you're kitting them as mere objective holders or something more offense focused. The Anointed are a beefy infantry choice, as they automatically are equipped with reinforced armor and an Infernal brand mark. They have the strong keyword and a +1 dice to both ranged and melee. These guys are a solid candidate for any heavy weapon that you want to include that may not be going on your elites. I personally like having an anti-material rifle on one of them and using them as a cross-map sniper, but there's plenty of other solid options for both ranged and melee weapons. Wicked fast, terrifying in melee, and beefy as hell, the Warwolf Assault Beast. With an 8-inch move and +2 dice to his dash, he has a 16 to 24 inch threat range. If that didn't make him fast enough, he also ignores difficult terrain. There is no way to slow down this beast. He has a +2 to hit in melee, but his chainsaw mouth gives him a bonus dice to hit, rolling 5 total dice on his first attack. His chainsaw mouth ignores armor and gives him a +1 dice modifier to injure. This is one of the most powerful melee weapons in the game. His second melee profile would hit with a +1d modifier while suffering the offhand attack penalty. It also does a +1 bonus dice to injure, not ignoring armor. The only true downside of this furry fella is that he's unable to be used in a couple of the subfactions, but that's not much of a downside if you're running vanilla Heretic Legion. Forged in the death factories of hell, the Artillery Witch is an explosive, long-range threat for your warband. The Artillery Witch doesn't attack with a normal ranged or melee attack. Instead, she has a special ability in which she throws a bomb at 36 inches of range with a regular 2d6 roll. She can target any point within LOS on a model, on the ground in between several models, or even on a piece of terrain. The bomb lands on its intended target on a 7 or greater, dealing 3d6 damage added together, ignoring armor, and dealing shrapnel damage, as well as having a blast radius of 3 inches. If the hit result is less than a 7, then the bomb blast is moved 1 times the degree of failure away from the intended target, at the discretion of your opponent. For example, if you roll a 4, then your opponent will be able to move the bomb hit location 3 inches away from its intended target. The blast still applies if it's in range of any enemies. Models hit by the blast of the bomb are moved d3 inches away from the point of the blast. This ability can wreak havoc on clumped up enemies, but can also act as a near guaranteed out of action if targeting individual models. The only downside of this ability is as soon as it's complete, the Artillery Witch must end its activation, so be careful not to leave her out in the open. This could be another beneficial use of the Priest's Puppet Master ability, as it can be used to move her into obscuring cover after using her ability. The Witch is all about long-range board control. Having one forces your opponents to be extremely careful in their model placement, as one wrong move could mean multiple out-of-actioned models for them. Last and most certainly least, we have Hell's favorite punching bags, the Wretched. These morons have a -1 dice to hit and a -1 dice to injure, so they're not meant to do much in combat. They're truly just meant as throwaway units, either as a body for objectives or as a screening unit. The one thing they do have going for them is that when they die, they will give one of your elites a blessing, which are hard to come by in the Legion. Another small bonus is that in campaign, you can refund them for their full price back, but the fact that troopers are only 5 ducats more make it hard to justify having more than one of these guys in your warband. Now that you have a taste of some of the power that the Heretic models have to offer, here's a brief look at the weapons and equipment that make the Heretic Legion armory unique. The Sacrificial Knife is a great melee weapon for taking down high armor targets, as it adds 2 damage to the injury result. It has the keyword risky, so it's important to put this on your models with a high melee profile. Being a one-handed weapon, it can be paired with the Trench Shield, offering the chance at the most OP armor stat in the game, -3 armor. Optimal candidates for the Sac Knife are the Heretic Priest, the Chorister, and or the Death Commando. The Blasphemous Staff doesn't offer a ton in terms of flat damage, as it only has the fire and critical keyword, but it is most sought after for its utility. It gives a +1 dice to any action other than dashing, ranged attacks, or melee attacks, meaning that this is a great option for your Heretic Priest so that he gets the +1 dice to his Puppet Master. I would say he's easily the most optimal candidate for this weapon. The Hellblade is a 2-handed melee weapon that provides a +1 dice to injure along with an extra blood marker for the fire keyword. Good candidates are those that have the strong keyword so that you can include the shield alongside it. So most likely the Anointed are going to be your candidate unless you get the strong keyword on your other elites via campaign skills or subfaction upgrades. Tartarus Claws are only accessible to the Death Commando, so there's not much of a decision here if you want to include them at all. They don't have any bonuses to hit or injure, however they do allow you to attack twice without the -1 dice to hit for the offhand attack. The trait that makes them viable is if you down or out of action an enemy with a melee attack, then you can move 6 inches in any direction. If you are brought into melee range with another enemy, then you can attack again as if it was your first time attacking. This opens up more flexibility for the commando, as he can use that extra 6 inches in several ways, either for the second attack, or he could use it to walk into a piece of terrain and use his stealth ability to go untargetable. Since there's not any armor cut or bonus to injure, this is really only a great option against squishier enemies. Given the current armor heavy nature of the game, this isn't the greatest melee weapon, but they are for sure fun when you get a full combo off. Armor and armor cut is the name of the game right now, and gas grenades are a great, cheap answer to highly armored units. These grenades offer a 3-inch blast radius with a successful hit, injuring at a -1 dice. Although the -1 to injure sucks, the nades do ignore armor and give a bonus blood marker with the gas keyword. Spamming these is a great option on your units that are going to be close range, as they only have an 8-inch range. The Hellbound Soul Contract simply allows models equipped with it to explode upon their own out of action, dealing 1 blood marker to any model in melee combat with them. The Infernal Brand Mark can be equipped to receive a -1 dice from injuries caused by fire weapons, as well as negating the extra blood marker. A model equipped with an Unholy Trinket can consume the item when failing a risky action. If done so, then the failed risky action does not end the turn. Finally, the Unholy Relic can be equipped to give any model the Fear keyword. Keep in mind, this isn't everything that the Legion has to offer. These are just some of the items that make them unique compared to other factions. Now that you have the knowledge of some of the equipment to put onto your models, let's take a quick look at the sub-faction options you have. The Heretic Legion currently has 3 sub-faction options: the Heretic Naval Raiding Party, the Trench Ghosts, and the Knights of Avarice. The Naval Raiding Party are all about fast movement and infiltration. All models in the NRP have a +1 dice when taking their dash actions, basically giving them all their own personal musical instrument. They can also upgrade 3 non-elite models as infiltrators, meaning you can have some heavy anointed infantry with flamethrowers dropping in near the backline to attack enemy models immediately after their own deployment. You can also add some machine guns for the cost of 25 ducats instead of the 2 glory cost, giving you another option for those ranged infiltrators. The drawbacks of running this subfaction is that you can only take 1 artillery witch, but that only matters in campaign. But you cannot take any Warwolf, which does hurt quite a bit as this is such a sick model. The extra movement makes them very forgiving to play, so this is a pretty good subfaction for starting out your Heretic Legion warband. In terms of strength, I would probably put them as the 2nd strongest subfaction. Next up, we have the infamous Trench Ghosts. If you are new to the channel, I suggest you check out my previous videos covering my personal Trench Ghost warband, but I'm still going to give you a basic rundown of the subfaction here. All models in this warband have the Fear keyword, ignore difficult terrain, ignore the extra gas blood marker, and take a -1 dice to ranged injuries against themselves. This makes them tough to hit in melee with Fear, and harder to take out in ranged due to the -1 dice to injure. Some unique upgrades that the Ghosts offer are the Sarcophagus Mine, the Tank Palanquin, and the Barbed Wire Banshee. The Sarcophagus Mine is a troop upgrade that gives them a -3 armor and the ability to self-destruct, causing blast 3 and rolling injuries with a +1 dice modifier. The trooper can explode when an enemy walks within 3 inches of it, or it can be blown up at your own will with a risky action. Of course, when detonated, the model is taken out of action. Next up, the Tank Palanquin is a priest upgrade, giving him the strong keyword, -3 armor, a 50mm base, and the ability to be automatically standing on a 2-inch platform. The platform ability means that the priest will automatically receive the +1 dice for ranged attacks when shooting from an elevated position. The Barbed Wire Banshee is a replacement option for the Chorister. It's identical to the Chorister, save for the fact that the aura is now a +1 dice to injure enemies within the aura, opposed to the -1 dice to enemies performing any action. With all of these bonuses, the ghosts suffer a few drawbacks. They cannot use any mercenaries, they cannot include warwolves or artillery witches, they cannot use soul contracts or brand marks, and most importantly, all of their dashes are done at 3 inches instead of 6 inches, making them thematically slow moving. The trench ghosts were a horror to face prior to the nerfs in patch 1.6.3, but I personally believe they are still the best subfaction in the Heretic Legion. Others believe that they were nerfed to hell, pun intended, but that still remains to be seen. Last, we have the Knights of Avarice. The Knights can take 1 item each from the New Antioch and Iron Sultanate armories. This opens up some interesting combinations, but honestly nothing game-breaking since some of the best equipment in both factions is locked to specific models. They can also include Goetic Warlock mercenaries at the cost of 110 ducats, opposed to their normal glory cost. Although for the purposes of campaign, they can't be promoted to elite, which kinda sucks. The Mammon Patron Saint is a requirement when playing campaign with this subfaction, and the Priest Puppet Master ability can be replaced with the Price of Greed ability. This ability allows the priest to select a model within 12 inches and line of sight, then proceed to roll a risky action. If successful, you will roll an injury on the selected model with +1 dice for each armor that it has. This is an effective way to deal with high armored models, but honestly, there's better options without having to get rid of Puppet Master. Overall, the bonus abilities for the Knights are kind of trash compared to the other subfactions. They do have some extra gear though, which is kind of cool, but at the same time still comparatively trash in my opinion. Tarnished armor is a -2 armor combined with a helmet and gas mask. The standard of Mammon is basically a troop flag, giving a +1 dice to morale tests, yet has the special ability to force enemies to roll an action when in melee combat with the carrier. If the action is failed, then the enemy model immediately is knocked down and cannot get up as long as they're in melee combat with the carrier. The Golden Calf Altar is an item that needs to be carried with 2 hands and can be placed down permanently by the bearer. When placed or held, the altar radiates a 3-inch aura that causes difficult terrain to all models of the opposing warband. The Coin Hammer gives a +1 dice to injuries and gives blessing markers to the wielder for each blood marker given. Honestly, the only viable items here are the Coin Hammer and Tarnished Armor, but nothing really stands out as super strong or cool to me. This subfaction is pretty underwhelming and their drawbacks follow suit, so I'm gonna run through them real quick. You cannot include models less than 80 ducats in this warband, including equipment cost. You cannot include weapons with the fire or shrapnel keywords, and the artillery witch bombs and grenade launchers are having the gas keyword instead of the shrapnel keyword. They also suffer a -1 dice to injuries. I really don't think this faction is super fun to play or all that strong, but feel free to give them a shot as there's probably some angles that I missed when trying them out. I currently rank them as the worst subfaction for the Heretic Legion. Don't let my bias of these subfactions affect you too much. Get out there and try them for yourselves if you think they sound cool. By now you should have a fairly decent grasp on what the Heretic Legion is all about. Maybe this gave you a couple ideas on how to begin your own warband, or perhaps what subfaction to go with. I hope you all enjoyed and found this at least a little bit helpful, so now get out there and go raise some hell. That's it, thanks for watching.